Okay, hey, so for my video, I'm going to talk about a law that is in place here in Taiwan where I work. I work at Hsinchu American School, an international American school here in Taiwan. And I'm going to talk about a law that affects the youngest of the learners, kindergarten and first grade age students. I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm going to describe the law. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history and culture behind the law, why I believe the law has been put into place based on the research that I've done. And then I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that we have faced at our school and that teachers and students have faced because of this law, okay? Okay, so the law itself. So this law is a part of the implementation guidelines for early childhood education and care services. And it comes from the Ministry of Education and is a part of the National and Preschool Education Project. So the specific article in this law that I want to talk about is Article 13. And there are 8 things listed under Article 13. That it says kindergarten shall implement education and protection activities courses in accordance with the following provisions. So I'm not going to read all of them, but I'm going to highlight the most important one and then one kind of also important. It says full-time, half-day, or subject by subject foreign language teaching is not allowed. So remember, this is for kindergartens. And the 8th, that's the 7th, and then the 8th is do not teach reading, writing, or mathematics for the purpose of proficiency. Okay, so that's the law that I'm going to be discussing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the history and culture behind this law and why I think this law has probably been enacted. So I'm going to start with an article from bbc.com. It was published in 2011. It's the article's title, the headline is Taiwan Deletes Simplified Chinese from Official Sites. So to be specific, I'll read a little bit. So Taiwan, of course, has been ruled separately since the end of the Civil War in 1949 from China. And while China has gone to use a simplified Mandarin script, Taiwan has continued to use the traditional script. And quoting from the article, it prides itself on being the best preserver of Chinese culture. Moving down, President Ma, back in 2011, has ordered government agencies to stop using simplified words. He argued that the use of the traditional language is one of Taiwan's cultural assets, and that Chinese tourists would benefit from experiencing this part of the island's culture. And moving over to studyintaiwan.org, an excerpt from that website, the Chinese language, Huayu, is fundamental to Taiwan's culture, and it is highly treasured. For many years, the Ministry of Education has been promoting the Huayu Enrichment Scholarship Program, providing subsidies for groups of overseas teachers of Chinese and overseas students learning Chinese to undertake study trips to Taiwan, etc., etc. So basically, this is very important to Taiwanese people because it's just an important part of the preservation of their culture and something that mainland China doesn't do, I think, which gives them even more incentive and provides even more importance for the continuation of speaking and maintaining traditional Mandarin. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about some of the challenges behind this. So, and I've actually just spoken to my principal at HAS about this and made some notes, so I'm just going to kind of go through these. So, in kindergarten, you are not allowed to learn any foreign language, and of course that includes English. So going into first grade, many students, or at least half of the ones that we get at our school, have no English experience from their schools. So some of the notes that we talked about, so this is an issue because there are some students who have received private tutoring or have parents who speak English at home. So this means that a lot of students or most of the students that come in are behind their classmates who received private tutoring or have English spoken at home, and they have to learn everything from scratch, alphabet, phonics, everything, okay? This leads to a lot of frustration with students who feel inferior to their classmates who already have this foundational learning, and it can also make differentiation really difficult for some teachers. So because kindergartens are different in Taiwan, other than the fact that you're not allowed to teach a foreign language, they're run more, from people I've spoken to, much more like an American preschool, where children may be babied a bit more, and really not accustomed to the responsibility of homework and other kind of responsibilities. And as I think I mentioned in the 8th part of Article 13, they're not meant to do anything for proficiency, okay? So they're being exposed to things, but nothing is made, they're not made to do anything, and it's hard for a kindergartner, but they're not really made to do anything. So you're teaching the school skills, the vital school skills, but also trying to instruct them in English and teach them everything from scratch, but treat it with a first grade curriculum. So it's very difficult to do. Another reason I believe that this is a challenge and maybe should be looked at by the Taiwanese government is I did a little research in the World Literacy Foundation.org and read a little bit about the benefits of learning a second language at an early age. And I won't read all of this, but two of the points they make: the earlier they learn, the better. It is much easier for young children to learn a new language than adults because this is when their brain begins to develop. The early years are a vital period when cognitive skills and connections are formed, which learning a second language can enhance. And another point they make, it enhances creativity and academic achievement. So according to research, children who acquire a second language at an early age are more creative than their counterparts who only communicate in their native tongue. So as you can see, first grade is still young. But I believe that this law should be looked at only because I think it creates a challenge for the students starting out their true academic careers. Some students can overcome this, but any child with a learning disability or maybe a social issue, it makes it just so much harder for them when they enter the intimidating new worlds of international school at this level, and when they have peers who can afford to do things differently. So it's something that we have faced. It's something that all schools here, I think, grapple with and have to deal with, but I think it's worth looking into for the Taiwanese government as the schools continue to grow and flourish, and as more and more people, international schools and more people are interested in getting their children an international education, starting them off with maybe a little bit of introduction with a foreign language so that they don't feel so behind, and so that teachers have an easier time teaching the entirety of the classes. So thank you.